Ladies and gentlemen, as you may or may not imagine, it is Sunday, August 7th, 2011, and this is Day 9 Daily number 337. 36. Damn it! Oh, I can't believe I messed that up! It's 336! Oh! Literally before the daily, I couldn't remember what number it was, so I asked the chat. I was like, it's 336, right? It's 336, right? And everyone was like, yes, yes, God, yes, alright, jeez, yes, go, start it, do it, come on. And then I come on and mess up, but that's fine because we're going to have sexy librarian glasses today. Because you know what, LiquidRet, he's quite good at StarCraft 2. He's really quite incredible. I have contacts on, so if I look through these, I can't actually see you, but over the top, you look mighty fine today. Now, I'm going to say a spoiler. I'm going to say a spoiler about the recent Blizzard Europe Invitational that took place. I believe it had Naniwa, Thorzain, Sake, Rett, Nerchio, Tarson, and an 8th person. And amazingly enough, here comes a spoiler, LiquidRet took first place. He knocked down Naniwa in the quarterfinals, and then he knocked down... in the semifinals, and then he knocked down Thorzain in the winner's bracket finals, and when Naniwa came up from below, he knocked out Naniwa again 2-0. It was incredible to see how skillful Rett was. And for any of you looking for the replays, just go to eu.battle.net, and if you look in their community section page about the recap, they have all the replays there. That's where I downloaded mine. And the one thing that's been very exciting to me about LiquidRet is that his play is just on another level lately. Rett is the sort of player who has this fundamental skill. He just cannot possibly seem to mess up. Like Larva injects, he never messes up watching his minimap and all that good jazz. But the problem with that sort of skill set is that it's so good you can oftentimes rely on it too much, win a lot of games pretty easily, and lose a lot of I didn't know that kind of games. You know, like I just didn't know that a Blue Flame Hellion Marine drop existed. And therefore, you're just going to kill me. But Rett has taken upon himself to do a lot more practicing. And what do we see at MLG Anaheim? This incredible Rett of just remarkable skill, nearly taking down almost every single person he played. He never looked like an easy opponent, no matter what. So I remember when I was doing the State of the Game podcast with JP, I just said LiquidRet was my unsung hero for the event. And now here he is, taking down the Europe Invitational, so he'll be at BlizzCon along with me. And he's really impressing me lately. So what we're going to do today is we're going to be looking at Rett versus Thorzain, their series from the Winners Bracket Finals. On Tuesday, we'll be looking at Rett versus Naniwa, their grand final games. On Monday, obviously, we have the Fun Day Monday, where you lift up your command center and float it to somewhere else on the map and then begin the game. You just can't start in your own main. And then on Wednesday, Thursday, and so on and so forth, I'll be at the U.S. Invitational for the BlizzCon qualifier. So I'll be driving down to Irvine to Blizzard HQ, doing little recordings down there. So you should tune into that. It'll be pretty much all-day broadcast from what I understand. And I have an extra special treat planned for the week after that, but I'm going to tell you it after the daily. Who's a jerk? Here's a jerk. He's a jerk. Let's go ahead and hop right into the game. LiquidRet's play is very exciting, enticing, and all such things delighting. Here he is in the top right corner, and here's none other than MouzThorzain mining with sound in the bottom left because I prepare adequately for said dailies. Now, the map is going to be Backwater Gulch, but one thing that I just want to do very quickly at hyper warp speed is I just want to appreciate the larva injects from Rett. Now, he better not disappoint because that would be absolutely hilarious if he did. We're not going to talk about the build orders at all. I mean, you can see a little bit of what they are in the production tab, but this is an exercise that I don't think people do enough. By any means. Should probably slow it down because at times 8 it does tend to freak my encoder out. But he will almost never miss these injects. His queens always stay so low on energy and like, come on, Rett, don't disappoint me. There he is, finally going. But of course he has some Hellionage to boot. This constant inject sort of thing is like the hardest thing ever to do, and generally over 40 is what I would call the scary spot that you never, ever want to get into. But Rett, look at how quickly he's injecting in the midst of all these Hellions being outside his front. And this is an interesting exercise to do for yourself. Look at that! Look at how fast he is! He's so freaking fast, right? And even back home, he has a queen that's very low on energy. And they're not even synced up, but we're still going to see Rett really on the ball with just getting a lot of larvae out. Still queens, still under 40. So again, I do want to pop back to the start of the game, because obviously we haven't talked about any strategy yet. But an interesting technique that not enough people do is to just rewatch their own games, look only at their production structures or only at their queen doing that larva inject, and to say, am I doing an okay job hitting them every time? And often what you'll find is, indeed, no, there are some huge holes and everything is going very, very wrong. And it's kind of funny because I often felt when I was just starting to do a lot of Zerg, because when StarCraft 2 came out, I pretty much played Terran and Protoss and just dodged the Zerg race entirely. But what I found out was that when I started playing Zerg, I felt like I could do more than I actually could. You know, I was like getting gas and getting upgrades, and then when I started just landing my injects constantly, I was realizing, my God, I'm spending a ton of money, and I have so many units. You have a little bit less wiggle room in terms of buildings, but you have a lot more wiggle room in terms of just aggression and that sort of thing. So what we're going to see Rett do is play a style that is so incredibly typical, but he's just going to do it combined with this great macro, and in particular, something I haven't mentioned all game long, great unit decision making. Great movement with his pieces. So in the bottom left, we see Thorzain going for himself a fast gas looking build, building the Marines, rallying to the front, everything looks good. Rett will be taking himself a fast expansion. And the thing to note, we talked a little bit about this when we looked at Morrow's games against Select from the Shoutcraft Invitational. We talked about the fact that players are building lots of drones. This was a hatch that went down quite late, I believe at 15 or 16. More drones got made, and then a pool popped down. Incredible, incredible amount of drones popping out at the start. Seems counterintuitive, but just keep in mind, drones is strong. So, I want to pause for a moment and just note the little stuff. Okay, so Rett gets to the front. This was kind of a late drone scout. You will very often see players send a drone scout out a little bit too early. And this is kind of a comfort type of thing, where they will send it out trying to find exactly what the opponent's doing. Is he 2-raxing or fast gassing me? Rett is very responsible about saying something like, when is my divergence point? When do I need to know what he's doing different? Because amazingly enough, I want you to think about the games where you scouted very early. Did you make a big change based upon what you saw? And if you saw something completely different, would you still do the same thing? A lot of times, I would find myself in a spot where I'd say, I spotted him, and he's going for a factory. I guess I better get some roaches up. Or, hey, he's actually going to do a little bit of marine pressure. Interesting. I guess I'm still getting roaches up. These are the sorts of things that can make you realize that you might not need to scout as early as possible, but Rett also very responsible about his Overlord positioning. He's sending this first Overlord here, and the second Overlord, he's probably going to be parking right here. If you watch a lot of Rett's games, you will regularly see the queuing of these Overlords all over the map, so be very, very aware of that. But as we hop back into the game, we do see that LiquidRet making a pair of Zerglings, going to be getting that Zergling speed, getting 2 queens out ASAPly. And as expected, we see the reactor coming down from Thorzain. This is what I call a benchmark build. Anytime you come up with a new Zerg style, I don't care if you're going to be going Mass Infest or Destiny style, or if you're going to try to be doing something crazy like going only Zergling because you love being a cheesy bastard. You should always go to your list of benchmark builds and say, can it beat that? Double Hellion opening, like the most standard thing in the universe. You absolutely should be able to defend against it. So we see LiquidRet running down here to the bottom of the ramp, extending himself some creep tumors, and I think that this early queen energy selection is incredibly important. Incredibly important. People will often just add larva if they can, and they'll think to themselves, yeah, I guess I better add a creep tumor. 0 creep tumors versus 1 versus 2 is a gigantic, gigantic difference. So we're seeing Rett, look at this, another pair of Zerglings coming out. Right now he has none. It looks like he lost his initial set of Zerglings. If we go to the Units Lost tab, there's the 2 Zerglings that have been killed. But we see a very early 3rd Queen from Rett and a single Spine Crawler. This is a basic defense that we have seen Slush do very frequently in his games. It's a very common defense. It's a very strong defense. And what do we see out of Rett? He's getting a lair immediately with his next 100 gas. He is blocking his ramp. He's getting this Spine Crawler up. We see the creep still spreading. And look at this. Look at the energy on the queens. The one with low energy adding another creep tumor into the main. One queen that has high energy, not spending anything, because if you have a transfuse, that's going to help a lot in the early game. Often you'll see the player just grab the higher queen energy and plop that down, but you want to have that awareness. Making sure you have a queen with plenty of energy. And already we're seeing the advantage of this double creep tumor action. 1 might get sniped off quite easily as you're extending them, but 2 allows you to just get a few inches forward. And look at this amazing amount of vision control that you have. This is something that is almost never talked about, is vision advantages. You'll hear me bring it up in a lot of casts in reference to tanks, like my tanks can see farther than your tanks. I have the vision advantage, so I will be shooting your tanks first. That's pretty standard, but people rarely will say, how do I counter that strategy? Well, with vision, with creep spread, I can kill this off. I'm not even building Zerglings right now, but thank God I have that vision spread so I know exactly what my opponent is doing. And likewise, we see LiquidRet did indeed park an Overlord down here and is marching it comfortably into the main. Again, notice how much sense this makes. If my opponent opened up Hellion, he's likely not going to have a ton of Marines. And we do see Thorzain backing off into something fairly typical. But keep in mind, LiquidRet does not know that. He has absolutely no idea about that. Per usual, we're going to see Rett land a lot of really nice larva hits. There's 1 kill on those creep tumors, but still extending and spreading it quite a bit. Because he's getting this layer so quickly, he doesn't actually need to join creep between his main and his natural. He can just take these overlords and vomit creep. I don't know if he does this a lot, but quite honestly, if you are getting a layer very, 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 very fast, just don't get the extra creep spread. There's no real big reason for it. And we see Rett's very typical fast spire. This is actually, I'm going to start calling this trademark Rett. The Zergling speed, not taking any guys out of gas, and then going straight for the layer. A key aspect of this early economy management is the fact that these queens were not injecting larvae nonstop. Only 1 queen was injecting larvae nonstop. Otherwise, Rett would not have had enough resources to build nonstop drones. Queen with a lot of energy up at the front, taking a couple of hits. And yes, many players will scan to kill these off, but still Rett is being very responsible about just spreading the creep as best as he can. Taking a handful of Zerglings to knock things down, 2 Spine Crawlers. Geysers 3 and 2 were started around the time that the layer finished up. Still nothing but drones being produced by Rett. Still very, very on the money. Larva injects, look at that, down to 13 energy. Thus far, just overall a good opening. And now that we hit the 8-minute and 15-second mark, we can do some counts of things. He has 47 workers to his opponent's 34, and it looks like he has 5 more on the way, so he's about to pass 50 workers. He just got all 3 geysers done. He's getting a spire incredibly quickly. If we just take a look at a couple other things, there's even another hatchery going down here. This is becoming a big element of many players' strategies. We see the Baneling nest going down for a little bit of defense, but mainly the spire's done. This is a beautiful opening. This is a well-refined, well-executed opening by LiquidRet that's going to allow him to step into the mid-game very, very comfortably. And it's quite often that players don't have this. Where, you hear me quite a bit talk about, yeah, you should have a mid-game plan first. That should be the big core. Yes, absolutely, you definitely should have that. But then your opening is all about how you get there. And often, if you don't have a good enough opening like this that sets you up on this beautiful platform, you can stumble into the mid-game feeling like you're at a disadvantage and win with that mid-game plan. Because, again, the mid-game plan is the most important part of any strategy. But still, always be thinking about refining this more and more and more and more. And look what LiquidRet got away with. His defense was 3 queens. That's already 0 larva. 1 larva, 2 larva. That is all the larva that LiquidRet spent on the defense. These Zerglings, yeah, sure, I guess it's another 4 larva. But this is a phenomenal cut in using larva to defend yourself. It's very easy to be like, yeah, herp-de-dur, I'm getting a lot of Zergling speed! And then you get all your Zerglings to kill off these hellions, and you've wasted 20 or so larva doing so. And this is a typical transition opening from Thorzain to just pop right into the usual marine tankness. Thorzain is, stylistically, he tends to get starports a little bit later. Prefers to get his ground army a little stronger. You'll see him pop down second factories quite early before he adds on any more barracks. He'll generally have 3 barracks making marines 5 at a time, and 2 factories building a lot of tanks and Thors. That's kind of irrelevant at this point. It's just primarily good to note that he's an ultra duper solid player. And again, hey, look at how this vision from us is helping us manage space a little bit. Now this is quite subtle, but again very important. What we're going to see LiquidRet do in many games is build those same units, the Zerglings, the Mutalisks, and use them a lot. But he does little things. He's getting vision advantages. He's suiciding Overlords in at key points in time. He always has 2 Overlords brilliantly positioned. And he's going to be knocking down a lot of rocks, and he's going to be doing a lot of counterattacks. It looks like his forces are under attack. And look in the unit tab, still no Zerglings getting made. Still none. Just sneaking a drone out to expand. So what if Hellions are going to be coming up and ruining my day? I'm going to get these Mutalisks out, and look at these Zerglings taking down yet more destructible rocks. Often, this rock makes sense. Aha, I take down this rock so I can go and take this expansion. But why take down these rocks? I don't think I'm going to be expanding here very soon. It all comes down to how the Terran army is positioned. What if he has tanks sieged here and here? He has control of this little gully. It's so pivotal. It's pivotal. It is pivotal to be able to take Zerglings here, knock these rocks down, and then you have freedom to counterattack. And Rett, in all of his recent Zerg vs. Terrans, has shown brilliance in terms of that counterattack timing. So what we're going to do is we are going to take ourselves a brief little break so I can go fill up on more tea. And when we come back, we're going to see how Rett uses this beautiful platform he's established in the early game to make these brilliant tactical decisions in the late game. So whatever you do, don't go away. This is Day 9 Daily number 336, damn it. And we're going to be back right after this.